To give members more time to arrive, we're going to begin the subcommittee. We'll begin today with Senate Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 1178. Senator Hoskins, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, State Senator Denny Hoskins, representing 21st Senatorial District, here today to present Senate Bill 1178. Senate Bill 1178 is the Missouri Angel Investment Incentive Act. I know many of you are familiar with this. We voted on this last year. It actually was out on the, I believe, Senate floor last year as well. Basically, it's an incentive to try and lure more private investment for companies looking to start and locate in Missouri. Currently, the state of Kansas has an angel tax credit. The state of Arkansas has something similar called the Northwest Arkansas credit. And MTC, the Missouri Technology Corporation, would be the sponsor or handler of this incentive. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. There was a Senate committee substitute. It changed a few things in there, basically, but we just were trying to mirror what the House had passed. So that's why we distributed the Senate committee substitute. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for the Senator? Before we move on to witnesses, we're going to take a roll call real quick.
Senators Brown,
Here.
Esslinger, Beck, Eigel, Fitzwater, Huff, Roberts.
Anyone here to testify in favor of the bill, please come forward. Begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman Brown, Senator Hoskins, members of the committee. My name is Ben Johnson, a Senior Vice President at BioSTL in St. Louis. But here today, in my role as co-founder and president of Next Missouri, which is a statewide coalition of more than 300 entrepreneurs, 75 organizations across the state and support them. We advocate for new businesses and entrepreneurship. It's the driver of economic growth here in the state. We're here to testify today in support because early stage capital is the lifeblood of high growth businesses in the state. More than 80% of the net new jobs created in the state, 40,000 a year, come from new businesses less than 5 years old. This is similar, even slightly higher than the numbers across the rest of the U.S. And significantly, the largest portion, particularly high wage job creation, comes from high growth, innovation-based businesses that have significant technical and financial risk. For these businesses, they named their number one barrier is inability to access capital here in the state of Missouri. At Next Missouri, our mission is to advocate for policies that help support the growth of these new businesses. Our agenda has 4 pillars. It's ensuring opportunity, a level playing field, reducing red tape for the start of new businesses, ensuring access to the right type of capital at the right time, and ensuring that entrepreneurs have the knowledge they need to start their business and the support for their ability to take risks. And many of our innovators and entrepreneurs across the state will be the beneficiaries of this bill. It helps solve their number one challenge. The angel credit, Senator Hoskins referenced, is a tool that's missing from the funding pillar here in Missouri. Angel investment, that first small amount of capital from private investors, is critical to turning ideas into new companies and new jobs, and giving companies the roots in our state. As the Senator referenced, 6 of our 8 peers, neighboring states, have a program like this, and often great ideas in Missouri, companies that start in Missouri easily jump across the border, and their economic growth occurs in other states because we're missing this tool. We're missing a functioning early stage capital market. And we know this is a credit that produces returns, both from data in other states, as well as analysis here. About a decade ago, when Missouri did its last significant round of tax credit reform and trimmed a lot of tax credits, this was one of the only new credits that was recommended for creation because our state knew that it would produce returns. It helps build a market that is under functioning here in the state. It's an issue for competitiveness, not just in Kansas City and Springfield, across in Arkansas, but our co-founders, our partners in Cape Girardeau, Kirksville, St. Joe, all over the state are enthused about the creation of this credit. And I'll end, as many of you know, Missouri has no shortage of entrepreneurial grit or great ideas. We can't let a shortage of capital to get these companies off the ground in our state prevent us from the job creation.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up, they would like to speak in favor of the bill. Please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, Shannon Cooper today representing the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce as well as the Civic Council of Greater Kansas City. We just want to go on record in support of this legislation. I think the previous witness did a great job in explaining the details. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do we have any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next up, they would like to speak in favor. Please come forward. Begin when you're ready.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Heidi Geisbuehler-Sutherland here on behalf of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We also want to go on record in support. We know that Missouri is a nationally recognized technology and innovation hub, but it can still be really difficult to get a startup off the ground in this state. So this bill would be a great incentive to help angel investors deliver a little bit more capital to new businesses.
Do we have any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Nancy Gibbs representing United We, and we also would like to go on record in support of the legislation.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Next up in favor, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Ryan DeBoof. I'm a registered lobbyist for Codify. Codify operates, in addition to several other operations, they run business incubators and accelerators throughout the southern part of the state. We're excited for this legislation, particularly for the impact it can have on rural areas in the state to promote job development and the acceleration of small businesses and startups. Happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor of the bill. Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Informational purposes only. Senator, do you have any closing remarks?
No. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
That concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 1178. Our next bill being heard is Senate Bill 1301. Senator Bean, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Jason May, State Senator, 25th District. Senate Bill 1301 improves the Missouri Works program. Senate Bill 1301 would make changes to the Department of Economic Development's Missouri Works program that would give the department greater flexibility in attracting new business to our state and encouraging growth in our existing businesses. The department's Missouri Works program is one of the state's best economic development tools that helps create jobs. The Missouri Works program offers withholding taxes and tax credits to qualifying businesses. In recent years, laws have been passed to create two new programs, AIM zones, or Advanced Industrial Manufacturing Zones, and time zones, or target industrial manufacturing enhancement zones that could negatively impact businesses looking to locate in these zones, since they also utilize the retention of tax withholdings by zones. The issue is that these other programs also use withholding taxes, so the programs end up competing against each other. When a project is offered by multiple programs from the Department of Economic Development, including Missouri Works, if the other program offers withholding taxes, then the Missouri Works program issues a tax credit. This greatly increases the demand for the Missouri Works tax credit, which is a problem because the program currently has separate limits for its availability, withholding taxes, and tax credits. The bill would get rid of these separate limits by combining them into one single program cap that includes both withholding taxes and tax credits. The single limit would take an administrative burden off the department and allow it to make competitive offers without hitting the Missouri Works tax credit cap so quickly. This would give the department the flexibility it needs to best attract new jobs and investment in the state. It is important to note that the bill would not increase the total cap of the Missouri Works program. Instead, it would simply combine the two existing separate limits. Right now, the cap on tax credits is $118 million, and the cap on the withholding taxes is $75 million. Senate Bill 1301 would just combine the two for a total cap of $193 million per year. This would make the entire program more effective while not increasing the total cap of the program. Another part of the Missouri Works program is the Deal Closing Fund, which is an additional tool to attract economic development by allowing qualified companies to receive some benefits like withholding taxes and tax credits during the first year of their projects. Right now, the Deal Closing Fund currently has a sunset date of June 30th, 2025, while the entire Missouri Works program sunsets 5 years later in 2030. This bill would remove the Deal Closing Fund's separate sunset date so that it would sunset in 2030 with the rest of the Missouri Works program. This would give the Department of Economic Development more confidence to include the fund in its future proposals to companies and close deals, bringing the Missouri economic growth and moving us forward. With that, we have to take any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Do we have any questions? Senator Beck?
Thank you for bringing this, Senator. I have a Missouri Works, we heard it a couple weeks ago in here, Missouri Works, that maybe we might be able to work something out and maybe make it a part of yours. I've actually had some conversations with DED on that. My question is, I just want to make sure of one thing, that there will be no crossover double dipping, basically, it would either or.
I do not believe so. We've got Department of Economic Development.
Well, they'll probably come address when they get up here. They're shaking their head yes, so I assume that's the case. Okay, and then the other one sunsets, when did that part sunset that you need to change?
2030. We would go from 2025 to 2030 on both.
Okay, the other one's 2025. Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, first up to testify in favor, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Ryan Stauffer, Legislative Director for the Department of Economic Development. I want to go on record in support of the bill. I want to thank the sponsor for bringing the bill forward. As the sponsor said, we wanted to put forward this legislative proposal this year following the passage of two new laws, two new economic development programs, the AIM zones and time zones, which also utilize the same economic incentive tax withholdings as the Missouri Works program does. Again, just combining two existing caps, the withholdings tax cap and the tax credit cap, into one overall cap. There would be, Senator Beck, to answer your question, no double dipping. The amount of the tax credit, the amount of the incentive would be the same, whether it's a tax credit or withholding. That amount would not change at all. So the second part of that, the deal closing fund, that was passed in 2019. It's only been utilized once so far, but we do feel like it is a good tool to have for Missouri and to make Missouri a competitive state as well. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions to the witness? Next up in favor of the bill.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Grace here on behalf of the Missouri Economic Development Council. Appreciate the department and the senator bringing this bill forward, and we're fully supportive.
Any questions to the witness? Thank you for your testimony. Next up, if they would like to speak in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Chair, members of the committee, Heidi Geis-Bueller-Sutherland here on behalf of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We are a longtime supporter of the Missouri Works program. It's a great economic tool to help increase the number of jobs in the state. And as previous witnesses have noticed, this will help increase flexibility and decrease administrative burden, which helps more easily make the funds available to businesses.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Thank you. Next up in favor, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Brent Hemphill. I'm here on behalf of Port KC. We want to go on record in support of the bill. We were very involved in the advanced manufacturing zone bill that was passed, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. It has been a very beneficial program. Time zone, I think Senator Huff passed it for non-port type incentive programs. But the AIM zone has been very helpful, and we just appreciate Senator Bean and his effort to bring the two together.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Next up in favor.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Chuck Pierce, representing the Associated Industries of Missouri. I want to go on record in support.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the bill? Would anyone like to speak in opposition? Informational purposes only. Senator, do you have any closing remarks?
Yep, thank you for your time.
This now concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 1301. Next bill being heard will be House Committee Substitute for House Bill 1511. Representative Murphy, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, I am Representative Jim Murphy. I represent the South County part of St. Louis County. I'm here today to present House Bill 1511. It's the electric charging station requirements bill. This is a bill we've heard in the past. Let me be clear, this is not about electric vehicles and it's not about electric charging stations. What it is a bill about is what is the proper role of government and when is government overreach something that's acceptable. Building codes are meant for two things. They're meant for safety and health of the citizens. Every building code we pass is meant to do one of two things. Legislation on a local level that requires electric charging stations to be placed in parking lots of retail centers and churches and other nonprofit organizations has nothing to do with health or safety. What it has to do is putting forth a political agenda. And frankly, it's not the role of government to do that. By asking businesses to install an electric charging station that doesn't even support their industry, it supports a completely different industry, which is the auto industry. Yet we're asking local businesses to invest great sums of money to install these. Now let's be clear, the federal government has invested $5 billion over the next 5 years, and the state of Missouri put $190 million of ARPA funds in the budget to do just this, which is the proper role of government. If you want them, you pay for them. What this bill does is says if you want to have an ordinance that requires electric charging stations to people that have nothing to do with electric vehicles, then they should pay for it. Let me explain to you the harm this does. You'll hear testimony shortly from a church that's trying to buy an old movie theater in the same shopping center as the county government center. The county says that they should spend $189,000 or more to place electric charging stations in it, but the county themselves hasn't done it in the same center. If you don't find that to be appalling, I don't know what is. All my bill says is that if you are going to require the installation of anything that has nothing to do with your business, especially electric charging stations, that you should pay the bill. You should not make a mandate upon business, because this is harmful. We have had businesses not come into South County because of this bill. We have had projects that were, for example, there's a church in my district that wanted to redo their parking lot. They had converted an old, very large furniture store. So they decided, after they had years ago refurbished this church. It's beautiful. So they decided that they wanted to redo their parking lot because it was a big gray slab and it was full of potholes. So they hired an architect who designed a beautiful parking lot. They put in islands and trees and lighting and so forth. And they took it to the county. And the county said, oh, this is beautiful, but you have to spend $200,000 now and put in some electric charging stations. Now, this would have been an environmentally sound project. But instead of going forward, what did they do? They resurfaced their lot. It's now a bigger and blacker eyesore. This is not accomplishing what they think it's going to accomplish when they pass these legislations. We need to put an end to it. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the representative? Guess not. Anyone that would like to speak in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Hello, thank you for having me today. My name is Pastor Dan Lord, and I'm one of the two churches that Representative Murphy was talking about. I'm the first one that represents a growing congregation in Jefferson County, now trying to open a new location of our church in this old movie theater. And we have 370 parking spaces, and the county law now would require us to put 10% of our overall parking and convert that into electric charging stations. They expect our local church to bear the cost of designing it, pulling the wires, bringing in the transformers, setting up the stations, and operating this system. We are a local church. We are mandated to care for our community. We're mandated to preach the gospel, to serve children, our youth, minister in prisons. Our church does all those things. We have prison ministry in 3 different prisons. We have school sponsorships programs. We feed thousands of children every year. Last year, our church gave over 1 million pounds of food away. That is our mission as a church. I have many other friends in St. Louis County, St. Louis City that are affected by this. The church community, if they try to move forward with updating their buildings, fixing a parking lot, I feel for the business community. But I have to look in the eyes of my donors. Grandmas, grandpas, husbands and wives raising kids, trying to put their kids through private school, some in public school, trying to pay for preschool. They donate to the church sacrificially for us to open a new lighthouse in South County. Fix up with the dilapidated building, that's one thing, but we have a mission as a church, and I'm being asked to take those funds, save them up, and now be a gas station for electric vehicles. So we've heard from senators, when trying to get some traction, like to support this House bill, Jim Murphy's bill. Well, that's a local control issue. Local control issue. Exactly. It is a local control issue, and we're being controlled. So what is a citizen, what is a pastor, what is a church to do besides to appeal to a higher power? St. Louis County has no form of government without being authorized by the state of Missouri. It gets its power from the state. It's authorized by the state. This is the higher power. So we're being controlled locally. What are we supposed to do? The elected government in St. Louis County, the people on the representative board, most of them are exempt from it because their townships within the county, they're not required to abide by this. We're an unincorporated St. Louis County. So we can't just vote the people out that are, we don't have representative government on this issue is what I'm trying to say. So I'm here today to absolutely 100% in support of it, but specifically to ask you as senators to think about if you are part of a local church, if this burden was put on your church. You know, Jim mentioned the St. Louis County government is, occupies probably 18,000 square foot of space in this retail shopping center. Across the parking lot, so joint parking lot, is Sam's Club. They have deep pockets. They just redid their parking lot, put a new roof on, expanded the building. Guess how many charging stations Sam's put in? None. We're being asked to put in up to 37 parking spaces. So I appeal to you to join with Jim Murphy and the Missouri state representatives that are in support of this bill and to please pass this to help us. Thank you.
Thank you for the testimony. Do we have any questions? I have one. Do you have, have you done any assessment on what the estimate for additional cost would be for those 37 electrical capable
it's
spots?
really all over the place because we haven't done the engineering work that would be required to even get an estimate, to have all the plans drawn up, to determine how far we have to go to even get the electricity that would be needed to pull it onto our property. We have retention ponds potentially that would have to be dug through that have retaining walls. I mean, we're probably 75 feet above grade of the main road, Lee May Ferry Road, where that power's down there sitting, which would have to come up through existing buildings, parking lots, to even get it up the hill to where where these stations could conceivably even go. So, no, we've estimated somewhere between $200,000 and $2.5 million.
Well, appreciate that information, and I certainly feel for the situation that you guys are in. Just doesn't seem really fair that you have the big box stores that aren't being held to the same standard while a church reliant on donations is put in a position like this. Thank you very much for your testimony. Please be sure to leave a witness form.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Anyone else that would like to speak in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Ron Leone, and I'm the Executive Director of the Missouri Petroleum and Convenience Association, which is a statewide trade association that represents many of the gas stations, convenience stores, and truck stops in your district. We are here in support of the representative's bill, as we have been for several years. My testimony will be brief, Mr. Chairman, because you've heard it before. And we feel that government mandates, by definition, use the power of government to artificially pick winners and losers and unnecessarily interfere with the free market system. Motor fuel mandates, especially motor fuel mandates at the local level, are almost always a bad idea and are far beyond the proper scope, role, and function of local government. For my association, Mr. Chairman, the bottom line is that the installation of electric vehicle charging stations should be left up to the private businesses and the free market system that would take into account competition, raising private capital, supply, and most importantly, customer demand. I know I am reiterating what the sponsor said, as well as maybe some of the other people that testified, Mr. Chairman, so I will conclude, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the witness? Saying none, thank you very much. Next up, they would like to speak in favor of the bill.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Chuck Pierce, appearing again on behalf of Associated Industries of Missouri. I want to go on record in support for the reasons cited by the sponsor and previous witnesses. Be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the witness? Thank you for your testimony. Next up, they would like to speak in favor of the bill. Seeing none. Anyone that would like to speak in opposition, please come forward. Seeing none. Anyone for informational purposes? Representative, do you have any closing remarks?
Thank you for hearing the bill, and I hope you come to the right conclusion.
This concludes the hearing for House Bill 1511. Next up, we will be hearing Senate Bill 1233. Senator Moon, please begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I'm Mike Moon. I represent the Missouri 29th Senatorial District, and I'm here today to present Senate Bill 1233. This particular effort has been ongoing for nearly 10 years. Mr. Chairman, you probably have lived through some of what some of these businesses are living through, to have an iron-fisted government come down and put their thumb down on you for reasons that aren't appropriate. And in this particular instance, around 2005, there were some changes made in state law, and some businesses were placed under the umbrella of another classification. Some changes were made at the Department of Revenue and not readily handed down to all the businesses so they could comply. And so they started doing some audits. And in this several cases, businesses opened their doors because they had nothing to hide. The Department of Revenue auditors came in and found that they were delinquent in taxes. One particular company was found to be in arrears $220,000. And this business owner told me that he didn't have that kind of money. So after about a month or so of haggling, they said they would settle for $36,000. And I asked the committee, some of you have heard this before, can you guess how much money he had in the bank? It was $36,000, and they took it. And that's wrong. Now, we've had some admissions from the department over the years that they realized an error but had no mechanism to return the money. The previous representative, Representative Murphy, was in the hearing years ago, and he had the fix, I believe. He said to the department representatives, you conducted an audit, right? They responded, yes. He said, well, open the books, admit you made an error, and return the money. And I thought that was brilliant, but guess what? That didn't happen. Since that time, there were some wedding venues who suffered the same fate. Most of those have been paid back, with the exception of one who they took $13,800 from, and that forced him to close his doors. That's unfortunate. Our state should not be run so inefficiently to stop the folks who are actually paying the bills. I don't think that's what they intended to do. That's what happened. They should have paid the money back. And so after having some budget line items passed on 2 different occasions, the governor vetoed twice, not giving really good reason as to why the vetoes occurred, but that was the case nonetheless. So former Senator Schatz had some discussions with the governor's office, and some language is drafted, what you see before you today, which would require those who are harmed by the department to go before an administrative hearing committee, and then if the committee determined that they were due back the money that they were fined or that was taken from them by the department, they would get that back. But if we can't trust a government agency to do what's right in the first place, why would we expect an administrative hearing committee to do any better? I would rather that they do like they did with the wedding venues and pay the money back, but here we are with this particular bill, and at least it's a step closer to getting this solved. So that's in essence the story behind the story. If you have additional questions and want more information, I'd be happy to attempt to answer those right now.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the senator? Anyone that would like to testify in favor of the bill, please come forward. Anyone that would like to testify in opposition? Informational purposes only.
I got one thing.
Got one question.
Senator, since I didn't have an opportunity to hear your bill, if you'll come by my office, I'd like to hear about it. I apologize for being late.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, since we have a quorum, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second? We are now in executive session. I move that Senate Bill 1029 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? I have a second. This is Senator Moon's bill we heard 2 weeks ago. Senate Bill 1029 phases out the corporate income tax over time. I move that the committee vote do pass Senate Bill 1029. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion?
I was just going to say that I've had an opportunity to visit with both of the sponsors of the bills, and I know that we can make them even better, but I'd be willing to bring them out of committee.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
Aye.
Esslinger, Beck, Eigel. Senator Eigel is voting with the chair. Fitzwater, Huff, Roberts. By your vote of 4-1, Senate Bill 1029 has been voted do pass.
I now move that Senate Bill 1202 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? This is Senator Black's bill we heard 2 weeks ago. Senate Bill 1202 will authorize the tax credit for contributions to certain benevolent organizations. I move that the committee vote do pass Senate Bill 1202. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
No.
Senator Esslinger, Senator Beck, Senator Eigel has left his vote. He's voting no. Senator Fitzwater, Senator Huff, Senator Roberts.
Aye.
By your vote of 3-2, you have voted to do pass Senate Bill 1202.
I now move that Senate Bill 823 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? This is Senator Hoskins' bill we heard last week. Senate Bill 823 reduces the corporate income tax. I move that the committee vote do pass Senate Bill 823. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
Aye.
Senator Esslinger, Senator Beck, Senator Eigel. Senator Eigel is voting with the chair. Senator Fitzwater, Senator Huff, Senator Roberts.
No.
By your vote of 4-1, you have voted to do pass Senate Bill 823.
I now make a motion to move out of executive session. Do I have a second? We are out of executive session. With no further business coming before the committee, I now make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? We are adjourned.